On today's episode, we'll talk about the DP-operator relationship, what really happens during private rehearsals, Bridgerton, the big picture, and of course, that classic of classics, revealing evidence, stalking the Honolulu Strangler. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and gooey operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling! Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Margaret. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Op Podcast, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. I am Dave Kamaitis, your host, and we are here yet again at Panavision Woodland Hills Theater because it sounds really good and they let me use it. So I guess that's what I'm going with today. I have actually two guests today, but I'm going to introduce one of them first and one of them second. I don't know why I said that, but I felt like it. Jeff Jur, cinematographer who has had an amazing career. Some of his credits include Bridgerton, Lodge 49, Halt and Catch Fire, Dexter, Dirty Sexy Money, Carnival, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, The Big Picture, Dirty Dancing, and an ABC after-school special that I think you shot for Tommy Shalami called Can a Guy Say No, if I recall correctly from Tommy's podcast?
And we answered that question.
Well, I want to find out what the answer to that question is. But before I say hello to you, Jeff was given the ASC 2019 TV Career Achievement Award. In 2016, he got a nomination from the ASC for Bessie. 2010, a nomination for Flash Forward. 2006, a nomination for Carnival. 2004, a win for Carnival. And 2003, a winner for Last Call. That's all from the ASC. He's also won 2 Emmys for Bessie and Carnival, and he had 2 other nominations for Carnival and Bridgerton. Clearly, no one is paying attention to anything you're doing. Jeff, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Great to see you, Dave.
The other person who I will introduce right now is Don Devine, who is you're an operator, Don? Are you an operator?
I used to be.
Don used to be an operator in a previous career, and Don and Jeff have worked together for, what'd you say, 35 years?
35, yeah.
35 years. They're 37 years old. And one of the things that I wanted to do today, I think it was your idea, Don, actually, to have an operator DP team who have worked together a lot to talk about that situation. But before we talk to you, Don, I want to ask Jeff one question, which is, can you tell me how you got here? What's your career?
I took the 101 to, oh, you mean?
By the way, just don't take the 101.
Back do you
don't
want me
listen
to
to Jeff. Yes. I was born to pick it up from the ABC after school special.
Well, I went to film school, I'll say that, in Chicago, and started working there and eventually started shooting. I was shooting in school. I was always working as a cinematographer for free on freebies, but eventually I started getting paid. And then I made the move to California when I was about 29. And I was lucky. I started shooting here right away. So I was working on small projects, low budget, non-union stuff.
Like features or TV?
Features mostly at the beginning, television a little bit, more television now. Yeah, I've just had a career and been very lucky to stay in Hollywood and keep working.
Yeah. Are there any specific projects that stand out as some of your favorites?
Well, the big break for me in Chicago was a series of dramatic films based on short stories that had really amazing actors. We had Sean Young and Fred Gwynne and incredible stuff that I was shooting at a really young age, 16 millimeter, very low budget, but it gave me a national sort of exposure.
These were for like festivals, you mean?
It was for a series on public television called American Playhouse.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And a lot of cinematographers, you'll look back, one of their first credits
Oh,
for a
wow.
lot of people that are still in the business was on that series.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So
Yeah.
that was like the high class version of the ABC after school
Yeah,
specials.
exactly right.
I'm infatuated with that whole
Oh, it was
situation,
fantastic.
by
I
the way.
mean, just to work with these actors at that level,
Yeah.
I was working on, industrials and things like that as a camera assistant. I was an electrician on the Blues Brothers for
Oh,
2
no way.
weeks and made some money. The film was so big in Chicago, they just pulled in
Oh,
kids like
everybody
me.
worked on it
Yeah.
who was oh.
Yeah, so I got a union waiver for like 2 weeks, and
That's
they
cool.
made more money than I was making as a PA on
Yeah.
industrials. But then when I moved to LA, that sort of brought me out. I had some exposure from this national public television stuff, and some people encouraged me to come here and said, if you want to do dramatic films, which I did, you have to be in Hollywood. This was 1983, 84.
Uh-huh.
So I came out, and the first film I did here was with Mark Romanek. It was a film called Static, and he put some money together. It was less than $1 million. Or
He was like a
$1 million.
huge commercial DP or music
He's
video.
become that. Yeah, we were both very young. He was 24,
Yeah.
I think, when he made that.
Okay.
So I think he kind of disowns it now. It was a pretty, not a great
A try.
project on in his
Yeah.
list of things that he's done.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was a great opportunity I was working with Amanda Plummer, Keith Gordon. Keith was one of the producers. Bob Gunton is in this. I mean, incredible cast.
That's cool.
So that was the first project I did when I got out here. And then I got a break with Dirty Dancing. A producer on that had seen my work in festivals and stuff, and she said, I'm going to stay in touch with you. And I said, great. And she was this kind of producer that just gathers people from around the country to bring into her projects because she likes them. She likes their work. She likes their personality, whatever it was. We hit it off, and like a year later or something, she contacted me and says, I finally have a movie for you.
Yeah.
I said, oh, damn, I already took a TV project. And she said, no, you have to turn it down, and you should be doing features. She convinced me to do it. I was so dumb that I didn't realize how important it was to stay and continue on in features. And certainly the movie turned out to be this huge hit. So I owe her a lot for encouraging me to.
Well, let me
make
ask you a
it
question
okay.
about that. Dirty Dancing, I mean, is not a movie that people think of for the cinematography. They think of it for the pop culture. I mean, I'm not saying it was bad.
Darn.
But they think of it for the pop culture. Like
It was very low
just-
budget. Yeah.
But it was a massive hit, right? So does that set you up when you go into a room that just like he shot this massive hit, therefore?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And more so than I even realized at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I thought it was like, oh, you'd come to LA and 2 years later you do this big hit, and that's normal. And I had no idea that it was incredibly rare and really special.
So that just opened up a ton of doors for you.
It certainly did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't take advantage of it as much as I probably should.
Yeah.
I didn't have any really guidance. Nobody was telling me, when you do this, you should really do that.
How old were you when you shot that?
30,
Wow.
29, 30.
That's a huge hit to be at
Yeah,
that
it's
point.
crazy. I mean, amazing. And I'm still stunned that it still has an impact. People still come up to me and say, oh my God, it's my favorite movie.
That's wild.
I've seen it 100 times, usually women. Or a guy will say, yeah, my girlfriend dragged me to see it, and it was okay.
Don just raised his hand to say that it was his favorite movie of all time. He's actually crying a little bit right now.
Well, it came out at a time when it was all these big studio films doing like Flashdance, Footloose, and stuff.
Yeah.
So they had a lot more money, but they also had a lot of stunt people, doubles and things, dance doubles. And the director, Emil Ardolino, really made that film what it is, which is something very authentic, I think. And I'm sort of proud of the fact that it wasn't a big studio glossy thing. So it was, I'm from Chicago, so the underdog is a very appealing thing to me. So,
Yeah. And what about Carnival? Just because that was such a completely different.
Yeah. That
I worked
actually
with you a
goes
couple days
goes
on
back
that.
to a film that Don and I did together called Panic. The director on that liked our work, the production designer and I both, and brought us into that project. So he was the showrunner at the time, and that's how I got involved in that. And I had done some HBO stuff before, so they sort of knew me. Amazing. Yeah, just that was a project I would have continued to shoot to this day.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
It's such a, I mean, it's beautiful work, and I mean, that was when HBO was like beginning to pour money into things. They're like mini
Yeah,
features,
it was one of the
right?
first period, I think, things they
Yeah.
had done, like Sopranos and Sex of the City at
Yeah.
that time. This was 2003, and yeah, it was one of their first bigger projects for sure. I
That's
think,
cool.
unfortunately, it only made 2 seasons,
I
but
know, right? It's too bad because it was a really great show.
it's one of the I read online all the time. People are like, bring it back or do a sequel or it needs to be continued. It was finished too soon.
You brought me out a couple days on that, and the main thing that I remember was like I would go out and then I would spend like a full day cleaning all my equipment because it was just like
Dust.
dust everywhere.
Well, it was literally set in the Dust
unbelievable.
Bowl, so we
I know.
couldn't help it.
It was very true to the name. And then the other two things I just want to ask you about, and then we'll let Don out of the cage and he can talk for a little bit. The big picture.
The Big Picture was Chris Guest's first movie, I think, as a director. He had done Spinal Tap, of course, as an actor and a writer. And then he wrote the script with another guy and found me somehow. I don't know how. I think it was because of Dirty Dancing. Like you said, doors were
Yeah.
opening a little bit. And it's that idea that success somehow it gives you an aura,
Yeah.
which I had no idea.
People grab onto your coattails, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, for better or worse, I got on that, and it was amazing.
Do you
worked
remember,
with-
I mean, did you just laugh constantly?
Yeah.
I asked Don the same thing when I talked to him,
Absolutely.
but because I think that's the funniest
Chris Guest
movie.
is one of the funniest people in the world. When you first meet him, he's not the funniest person in the world. He's very dry.
Yeah,
But once he gets to know the situation and know you in particular,
he opens
his
up.
humor gets
Yeah.
dialed in directly to you, and I'm in tears.
Well-
I still laugh at stuff that he said 25 years ago.
That makes me so happy because that's what I want it to be.
Oh,
like
it was
in my mind.
so much fun.
But
And-
Don and I were talking about some of those like the student films that you
Yeah.
guys shot, and how you can on a couple of them you can kind of see him laughing as the camera operator because the camera's moving, just because it's hilarious.
It's the world that I came from, sure.
100%, yeah.
Film school, and it
And
was
it's
fun
just
to make fun.
those movies are so pretentious. It's incredible. Yeah, it's great. And then Bridgerton, just because you're shooting it in England, right?
Yes.
And it's a period piece, totally different than shooting in the United States. Is it like working with the operator there? Is it a different situation than working here?
Yes, in a way. Just the working situation is the hours are different, and but being on a show with those kind of locations and the wardrobe and the makeup and the hair, it's just spectacular. And the actors very technically minded. They just get out there and do it, so they can hit an over like nobody else.
Is that right?
But yeah, it's a interesting place to work. It's different. There's no big grip crews there. It's a small grip crew.
Okay.
Grip is just Dolly Grip and Best Boy and
Wow.
a chippy, they call him, which is the guy with tools and wood.
With the lunch.
Yeah.
And but the camera operator wise, is it really the English system of the camera operator and the director sort of figure it out and then you
Well,
light it, or do you do sort of a
I hate
hybrid?
to say this in the company of two amazing operators, but they let me operate.
There's another person in here.
They let me operate
There's
myself.
two other people in here.
They let me operate myself on the show.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
They said it's an option, and I wanted to do it because I missed it for one.
Yep.
It's hard to find good operators like you guys all the time. So
We're both
I didn't, and
available.
I just didn't know anybody there either. So I
Yeah.
had no base of
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a risk, and I thought, well, I'm just going to do this.
Wow.
And I was working with a director who liked when I operated. I had done
That's
some
cool.
stuff with her before. So I took the opportunity. I had a B camera,
Yeah.
a Steadicam, and it was fun because it was nice to be on the set again. It was nice to make all those little decisions that you make.
Yeah.
When you have great operators, I don't have to worry about it. But when you don't have a good operator, it drives every
you nuts.
DP crazy when they're making choices that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
So
But prior to this, when was the last time you quote unquote operated? Were an operator or operated a show?
it's been a while. I worked in Canada on a project. It was very low budget, and with a director I worked with a bunch, John Dahl, and we did a movie called You Kill Me, and I operated on that.
Do you know how many years ago? I mean, was that 20 years
2000
ago, or
2001, I think.
Okay, so it was 20 years ago. So,
Yeah, it's
Mike, the reason I ask is because did you just jump on the camera and it all came back to you, or were you
I jumped on the
rusty?
camera, and it all came back.
Really?
It was fantastic. The wheels, everything.
Oh, that's great.
It was.
And did you love it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I still would work as an operator any time. Yeah.
But that's great.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, that's fine. I'm not. Don and I are going to leave now.
Oh.
So Don Devine, hi.
Hello.
For anybody who doesn't know, Don was on the podcast very early on, and his podcast is up. You can listen to it. It's fantastic, and you can hear how Don got his big break by running into someone and breaking their leg, which is something that people can
It
try.
was my post-production break.
It was your
I'm
post-production.
still waiting for my production break.
You keep on running into people playing softball, hoping that you'll get a job. Yeah, I like that. I asked both of you for a list of what you've worked on, and I'm just going to read this off because this isn't everything apparently. Working backwards: Westworld, The Catch, Colony, Reconstruction, House Rules, The Eye, Invasion, Carnival, Joyride, My First Mister, Panic, Texarkana, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, Alone, Caught in the Act, Running Mates, Morton and Hayes, my personal favorite, Revealing Evidence, Stalking the Honolulu Strangler, The Big Picture, ABC series Equal Justice, Terrorist on Trial, a 3-part miniseries. I really want to spend the whole time talking about Revealing Evidence, Stalking the Honolulu Strangler.
That's when you had to have 2 titles. Every TV movie had 2 titles.
It was like the first title and then the colon and then dun, dun, dun.
They tell you the whole story.
Yeah. The producer's idea was always the second one, and it was like the networks. It was like put them both on there.
Let's explain it better. Like go for the artistic fancy schmancy title, and then we'll go. This is about blah 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 blah. So you guys have worked together for 35 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
Well, not well.
Well, I didn't.
That list makes me very tired. I want to lay down.
So this may go careening off the cliff, but Don had this idea of like the two of you sitting down and talking about what it's like to work as a DP and a director who have worked together a lot. And so what I thought was
operator, DP and an operator.
I did say that a director, didn't I?
I mean, he treats me as
I understand.
a co-director on the set.
You know what it is, Don? Just Jeff.
He's the director of the operating.
Sitting here as operators, we understand that we're really at the top of the whole spectrum, and I said it.
but we're looking at it upside down.
We are looking at it.
You're on the spectrum, all right.
That's exactly right. This is basically going to be 2 hours of nonsense, but whatever. So what I was thinking, and we'll see how this goes, was you're on some movie and they just did the private, which they don't allow anybody in because we can't see how the secret sauce is made for some reason. I always think that when they're in the private rehearsal, they're in there like on their phones and ordering from Amazon and whatever. Has it been long enough? Yeah. Why don't we call them in?
Peeking?
Why don't we call them in and say we rehearsed? Actually, you know what? John Lindley says this all the time. He's like, why do we get to call to set at 8:00 and then they send everybody away and rehearse? Why don't they get there at 7:45 and rehearse, and then at 8:00 when we're ready to go, we can all go. So anyway, little John Lindley plug and pet peeve of mine as well. So anyway, they bring you in, you see the rehearsal. Like, what's the next step?
Well, I think you try to get into the rehearsals when you can. You really make a point of it.
Yeah,
it's really a director's
sure
choice, which becomes an AD's choice, and they decide
about whether you're into the private. You mean? Yeah,
and it's usually early on.
Yeah,
too. It's usually and actors. Maybe the actor says, "I just would really rather just deal with you and Jeff and the smaller
to the director."
Better.
Not have as many people in there.
So you kind of let. As I think we both do, and anybody who's done it, lets the actor set the tone of the show anyway.
Yeah.
Usually they don't care because they're sort of trying to figure it out, and they just want, sort of, instead of having 20 people in there, because, the marking rehearsal is always for,
of course,
the people who don't need to be there. And so you're usually outside the door as the operator who kind of needs to be there.
Yeah. You get the glass up against the door.
Yeah, it's kind of like why are the 4 assistant prop people here and the PA?
Yeah. So actually, let me ask you a question. So then, like day one, first rehearsal, do you go up to the AD and go, "Is it okay if
I usually go to the DP.
You go to
say, "I would love to be a part of this. I understand the politics.
Why don't you feel it out?"
Totally.
Okay.
If you want me there, I'd love to be there. If you don't want me there, I'm cool with that.
Okay.
You know, I also think that there's something kind of cool about seeing it after it's kind of been tweaked a little bit.
Yeah.
So you come in with some fresh eyes.
Missing the first part, you're saying.
Sometimes
Yeah,
that
agreed.
can be good, sometimes not. I think also that relates to having no prep. You have this DP, you have this director, they've worked together for 4 months, 8 months. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 4 weeks, 8 weeks.
4 days, 8 days.
Or 4 days. Yes, they just met before you met them. But they've been on it and they've sort of talked it through till they're about ready to throw up.
Which, of course, is
It's
sometimes meaningless as soon as you get the actors in the room.
and it can be. And then so I don't get all of that peripheral stuff.
Well, and in some ways, you don't have that baggage in a way, right?
Exactly. And I think it's, because I always say I'd love to prep with you guys. I'd love to be a part of it. But there's also a part of me that knows that you can get so bogged down on the technical stuff. It happens in prep, it happens on set. The story kind of gets pushed under the covers.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to sort of
just
go, I know you guys did all that stuff, but let's
here's fresh eyes on it.
Yeah.
And do you usually try to get Don in if you can?
The thing to understand, especially about Don and guys like Don and you, is that we're filmmakers. I try to surround myself with filmmakers, not with crew that I'm just going to tell what to do.
Yeah.
So I really love that collaboration. This is what I learned in film school, is that everybody's there. Everybody wants to make a good film. They're not just there to pull cable or pull focus or whatever. And so I love that environment where you can talk about what the story's about with everybody. And then you make your choices based on that. You still have to operate the camera. I still get to light and make the final say on these things. But to have Don, for instance, as part of the rehearsal, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And my dream is that we discuss the story ahead of time, but then see how the actors are moving. And I'll elicit his opinion about, what do you think? Is it back here? Is it up here? You're working with the director, of course, too, so you have to accommodate that. But that input is so valuable, I think. And I always feel like the way to treat operators in particular is like actors. You're not going to tell an actor, you're not going to be in their ear. I know you guys hate headphones and the DPs talking through the shot, during the shot, which I don't do.
Thank you.
But
yeah.
I mean, if you're in some environments, you have to do it. But
he's over on Bridgerton with a headset on himself, talking to himself,
myself.
as he's
Yeah,
operating.
and arguing too. I'm a Gemini, so it's perfect.
That's right. You're arguing with yourself.
He needs it to talk to the operator, and he's the operator.
Exactly.
So I got lost now.
That's all right. It's not going to be the last time. But no, you were just saying about how you guys talk through, like, where is the camera and what is the camera doing? And
Yes.
I mean, basically though, do you go into it with since you've prepped, you're probably going into it with you and the director have come up with an idea with how it's going to be
Hopefully,
shot. Hopefully,
yes.
Not always, but
Not
I mean,
always.
if it's something more than just general coverage or whatever.
I mean, all these things change with depending on the director, for sure.
Yeah.
Like a rehearsal. Directors are nervous when there's a lot of people staring at them. I think that's why they clear it out.
Yep.
They are having issues maybe with the actors and the blocking, or they're unsure. So they want the space to work it out, which I think is valid.
Yeah.
I'll even leave sometimes and just let them sort it out if they're really not there yet.
Well, it's reading the room, right? Which is like so much of what we do at every given moment.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
figuring
Everybody
out
wants to know what the shot is. That's why everybody's there for the blocking rehearsal and stuff.
Yeah.
They just want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So they don't want to be in the dark. So it depends. So the director changes that environment every time. But
And so with the two of you, do you go in with an iPad, with a finder, with whatever, or you just sort of like looking at it? Yeah. So,
yeah, I love the iPad because it is a way to show literally the visual aspect of it.
Yeah.
As you can tell already, I'm not great with words. So this is why I shoot film.
This actually isn't Jeff speaking. He's whispering in someone's ear.
My AI. I got to work it. This should sound more like...
The reason that I like the iPad so much is because I, for years, would line up a shot and like I'm down on my knees, or you're
Sure.
down on the floor, and you're holding the lens in front of
The
your
finder,
eye,
yeah.
and you hand it to the director, and they stand up and they go, yeah, this looks good.
Because
And I'm like, you're
it
not
hurts to kneel down.
you're not looking. So with the iPad, you can take that picture and go, do you like this
Absolutely.
or whatever.
And often the director will just leave after the rehearsal.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
You guys
lighting
figure
time.
it
Like,
out.
what?
Yeah.
Get back here. Or I'll go find them and say, okay, look, I'll take all these pictures during the rehearsal of ideas.
Yeah.
Yes, there's the shots we talked about. There's your shot list. But now look at this. Look at their performing. This is why rehearsals are so important to me, is you see what the actors are really doing and how they're performing. And that always inspires the photography and the placement of the camera, the movement, lighting, everything. You have your plan ahead of time, but often, like you said earlier, is that it goes away because the actors are now over there instead of here.
Yeah, just
or they're
because
looking down. So
and not for any negative reason, but they inhabit the space in a way that's 90% of the time different than what you imagined.
Of course.
I've
done shot lists that you just throw out basically once you get on set.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, remember these 4 shots? Like, yeah, that's not happening anymore. Now this is happening. So, okay. And after you do it a while, it's a great way to work. I find you can come up with the shots you need in a short time.
Yeah.
In that first rehearsal, you get your plan and make a list, and there's your shot list. But to include an operator, I think, is so key, because treating them like an actor, that's what I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
To you guys are performing during the take. You're not just going from A to B. You're reacting to the scene. You're reacting to the story. You're reacting to the actors. You're feeling all of that stuff, and you do a take, and then you talk about it. But I wouldn't talk through like you would you would never do with an actor. Okay, now say this on that. No, louder, quieter. No, go turn back. Which is what you guys hear on the radios quite a bit, which is one way of working. But I find it's easier and more interesting it's like casting. You cast a good film with good people. So you cast the operator for the right project. Not that it's different, but you want a good operator that can perform.
Yeah, and tell a story.
And tell that story.
Yeah. And so you've worked out with the director what the master is. Let's say what the master is, right? Do you and Don then talk about what all the pieces of coverage are going to be, just so you're on the same page? Do you break it down?
Yeah, I think so. He'll often know ahead of time.
Does
Don
he tell
will know
you
ahead
what
of time.
you need?
Well, yeah. He's
Don?
he's a total filmmaker, absolutely, and he's a cinematographer for sure, closet cinematographer.
Add that to the list.
Yeah, exactly. It's a big closet.
So he knows he's not just giving you what you want. He'll do that, but he'll also have a lot of suggestions, and he knows that I'm open to that for sure.
But,
I'm sure that changes film to film. Some DPs don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
Other DPs are maybe not have an idea, or directors often will not have an idea. So it's up to us to come up with the plan of how to go about the day.
But it's worth mentioning that right now, which is this is how you guys work. So Don, like you work with Shelley Johnson a lot.
Yeah.
When you work with Shelley, it's a different. You work it differently than when you work with Jeff.
Yeah, but it's also the show too. I think that it's being familiar with the people, and then having even if you have a good working relationship with somebody, as soon as you add a new director to that, and a new project to that, and how big or small or what the other limitations are. Like you said earlier, I think feel the room is really, really, a good phrase. I know that it's pretty abstract because, the way that I felt a room when I was starting and the way I feel a room now. Oh my God.
No, there's no
But that's experience too.
Exactly.
I know with Jeff after 14 hours, or Shelley, or almost any DP that I've ever worked with, I'm not going to go up to them and suggest something because the director is so adamant about this shot. He's exhausted or she's exhausted, and Jeff's exhausted and I'm exhausted, and it's like, God, but it'd be so great. And if I'm not going to be able to sleep at night because I didn't say something, I'll do it. But but I'll edit too. It'll be like, you know what? I'm going to save this one for
I don't think we
tomorrow.
need that. Yeah, exactly.
It'd be great,
Sure.
but it's not going to change.
So at that rehearsal, are you then walking around, even if the directors, let's say the director is left, are you walking around with Jeff and, with the iPad going, okay, so we'll probably need this over here and we'll probably need that over. So you have like a little running list of
I'm
what
definitely with him
think it is?
all the time when that's happening. When we see the blocking rehearsal, I'm not a big wanderer, and I'm personally am not a big viewfinder guy during the rehearsal.
While the actors are rehearsing,
Yeah,
you just like to watch.
Because I know
the play.
I've worked with directors and DPs who will be on opposite ends with viewfinders,
like sharks,
and the actors are just kind of going, and it's like, let them. This is still their moment. They're still trying to figure this thing out.
Yep.
Usually when we come in for the marking rehearsal, they're not ready for us. It's the AD who's like,
yeah, right.
You've had 3 tries.
Yeah.
4th is a marking. It's like, well, no.
It says that in the book.
But if you give them 10 tries, you're going to get it, and that's what we're going to do, and everybody's going to know exactly what.
As opposed to, by the way, 3 tries, they show you the 4th one, you set the dolly track and everything, and then they come in and they really do the 5th rehearsal. And they're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I think I'm going to do this. And then you have to punt.
Yeah, it's going back to the trailer and going, wait a minute. We're really doing this, aren't we? Let me look at the script again. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, not doing that. Yeah, no, we've all
Which
been
they're
there.
probably going to do anyway to a certain degree, but if you let them work that stuff out
because
before,
they're finding the scene, right?
Absolutely.
So the more chance you give them to find the scene, it's again back to my original thing. Just come in early.
Yeah.
Do all that, give them as much time as they want, and then give us our time.
And I also feel that if we all sit there and we let them have it for the marking, put the marks down. I mean, I'm sure the actors know this, and if they don't, oh God, here I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag.
Everybody listen right now.
Well, but I can guarantee you those marks that they just put down. I'm going to move that one over a foot. I'm going to move that one over a foot.
Yes,
I'm going to move that couch over there.
Yep.
So because that's where they want to keep going to, is right next to the couch. But the background's better there, so the couch goes over a foot. I turn to the set dresser, when the actors. So you're constantly trying to make it better. You're trying to,
But it's worth saying that all of those things that you're doing are probably because you feel that that's the way that they're naturally moved. Like he doesn't go to the mark. He always seems to go right next to the couch. So I'm either going to bring the couch over to him or I'm going to move the mark over to the couch.
I want to emphasize this with Don in particular.
Yeah.
Because he will understand.
Don's just left.
He'll often understand. Talk about reading the room. I mean, this is really deep stuff. But he'll know after a short while, that the actors like to do a certain thing, and sometimes they'll go past their mark.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's the mark, but he knows they're probably going to do this because of who they are and how they work. He's going to give it more track or fly the camera more in the dolly grip.
Be ready for that.
Put the boards a little longer because we're probably going to go over here.
Yep.
So he'll never say, "Well, they didn't. This is what they did in the rehearsal." He'll anticipate those things, which is incredible, so valuable. The thing about Don is he will get that first take, for instance. That this is so crucial because there used to be tech rehearsals. We're old. So there used to be a full-on
and
tech,
one camera,
tech rehearsals,
focusing on the
camera throughout the whole take, the actors, sound, everything, but not rolling.
Yeah.
When it was filmed.
Yeah.
Amazing. You'd iron out all the technical details and the director would see it, how it was really going to look. And then some actor went, can we just shoot? So that went away, and now you're going right away.
The second they get on set.
Every DP hates they want the rehearsal take on the slate, all this stuff, because it's rough.
Yeah.
But what Don has figured out is that take can be really good, especially for some actors. Take 1 is like amazing. And when you get it technically, and he does this, it's magic. And directors, I think, really, really appreciate that. And are frustrated, like, oh, we didn't get the first take. It's like, well, yeah, because there were so many things that were not ready. But he'll anticipate those things and give you that first take.
My personal beef about that, and people who listen to the podcast know this already, is let's just roll in the rehearsal because maybe magic will happen. And I always think there's no magic. There's the dolly grip is really good, and I'm good, and my focus puller because
we're professionals.
Yeah, exactly. It's not magic. I mean, there's a little bit of luck in that things don't completely go differently than we thought, but everything else is because we're good. And it's no magic.
Well, it's also when they're frustrated that they didn't get that take, like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so
we
good.
should have been
like,
rolling.
Well, we can do this again.
Yeah. Yeah,
it'll
our
probably
job
be
our
better.
job is to do it the same every time or
and
better.
have it be
hopefully.
better
Yeah,
even.
exactly.
Yeah, this is what we do.
But so Don, when are you basically watching the actors and sort of realizing over time how they react, and you're adjusting to
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I think that within the first week, you know pretty much how everybody
Meaning
is.
who's going to hit their mark, who's not going to hit
Who's
their
going to
mark.
hit their mark? Who can nail it in one?
Yeah.
Who can nail it 4 takes? Maybe they need to warm up
Yeah.
while we roll. So then you go, well, then let's shoot. Let's start shooting.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one in here on the phone.
Yeah.
And we know that it's going to take up to 4.
So the
Or-
first 2
or we don't even-
rehearsals are not really rehearsals anyway.
Yeah, or
'cause
you
they're
don't even
probably not
roll.
gonna
I mean,
be-
I've been on shows when it was film, and the
Yeah,
director
remember
would
that? Yeah.
the director would be like, "Don't roll. We're going to go through the whole thing. We're going to hit the sticks, and just don't,
And you, as the camera operator, you used to go, so it sounded like the.
I still do that.
Yeah, well,
What's that noise? Oh, it's done. We're rolling digital.
That's going to say
it's
something.
old timey film noise coming from Don again.
I just do the rollout.
So then, Jeff, you guys separate and you go off and start to light, and Don starts to talk with the dolly grip or whoever, camera assistants and whatever about camera and whatever.
Yes, and this is a great moment because you can leave the camera in Don's hands. Literally, he's going to give you something better than what you had planned. My job is to try to put him in a good position for a good shot to catch something that hopefully is great, and he'll recognize that. Or we'll talk about it's really better. What about over here? Now we're looking through this stuff. Great, let's do that instead. I'll always try to accommodate whatever. Because I trust his vision for the thing.
And do you leave him with just so you know, I'm going to need that for I'm going to have a light over there, so make sure to keep if you're changing anything, just know that I'm going to put something there and whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he'll see kind of where things are going to go, and he'll understand. Try to give him the parameters.
It does kind of morph into, there are times with all DPs, including Jeff, that the best shot can't be done because
you just can't light it
the
way you want it to.
And you have to. I think that's why Jeff's got operating in his brain, and I have DPing in my brain, and so we kind of know what the problems are going to be for both of us. It's
meaning you're not going to even go down that road probably because you know it's going to end in
it's like, well, that's the perfect spot to put the light for this blocking. Well, then let's just come over here a little bit, knowing that's Condor's got to come through that window.
But the thing that I hear from both of you, which I think I agree with, but just to put a label on it, is that you both trust each other's instincts.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so you know that you can step away and you're not gonna come back and it's a drone shot. And Don's left for the afternoon.
What's a drone?
Well, okay. Now I've worked with other operators where you'll leave them with the shot, go away, and they'll say. Oh, we got to raise the set. We got to bring everything up a foot. Wait, whoa, hold on. What are you doing?
You mean bring the couch up and bring this or something?
Yeah, the hardest way to solve a problem, the biggest issue to solve a problem.
Yeah,
all this stuff has to happen.
No, you dig
we
a
don't
ditch.
have time. Can we just drop the camera 2 inches?
Yeah,
you won't see off. I'm seeing off the set, or I can't see the thing behind. Well, don't raise the set. Just let's. Drop the camera
So let me ask you a question. If you're working with that operator, hopefully that's not me, and do you then stay with them a little longer until the shot is, you kind of know, okay, we're in a place that...
Now you realize you have to keep an eye on things.
Yeah.
And so you're interacting more.
Yeah.
And obviously with Don, it's ideal because you can trust what he's going to do. And I don't worry about what he's doing over there. So yes.
Well, and also you have enough years going that you know how each other work. And
that happened, I think, fairly soon on. We were pretty.
Yeah,
I could tell he was a filmmaker. And had good instincts. Sure.
And then Don, as you're setting up the shot, if suddenly something comes out of left field, I mean, do you immediately go to Jeff to let him know that there may be an issue? Or
Oh yeah. I mean, I really feel that,
and hopefully
it's important that the director and the DP and myself are always on the same page.
Yeah.
I don't want to get a note from the AD that the director said something from his trailer. it's like, well, tell him to come here. I want Jeff to hear
Let's
this,
all look at it.
and I want to hear this. I want all of us to hear this so that nobody's ever going to say, but I told you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, Jeff, did he tell you?
Yeah.
Because he didn't tell me.
Yeah.
And it's like, and of course you have to play that game too
Well, and also
you
the
know.
other thing is it becomes telephone, right? Like the telephone game. It's like the AD comes in and is
Yes.
like, the director just said he wants, the set to float above the air. And it's like, the director really was like, I want an ethereal quality.
Yes.
Something more dynamic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But when you get everybody there face to face,
Yeah.
everything's fixed in like a minute.
Yeah.
Instead of 15 minutes or a half hour, or going in a direction that's the total wrong direction, and you keep fighting it and you keep fighting it, knowing that you're going to come back
Yep.
to this spot.
Yeah.
So you try to fix that before it becomes a problem.
Now, if you're on a show with A and B camera and Don's on A, are you, Jeff, talking to B, or are you talking to B, Don, about what, or is B going, here, I have an idea? Like, what's the best?
It depends on that operator
Depends
too.
on that
I think
operator.
I'm usually saying, can you get a profile while Don does the master, whatever.
You're giving me a project and then
Yeah,
sending them
but I
off
think
then.
you probably work with that person too, right? In terms of
Yeah,
what's in,
no,
what's out.
I think the three of us together, even the
Yep.
four of us, if it's a director, I think the more that we kind of all know, do we need the profile, or are we just getting the profile? It's like Jeff was saying that, we'll watch a blocking rehearsal, and the 10 shots that the director had on his shot list, which we all kind of looked at each other and went, and folded it up and put it in our pocket.
Yeah.
You know that there's 4 shots there that you can actually do in 12 hours.
Yeah, that tell the story.
That tell the story better than any shot,
Yeah.
And what you almost know the 4 shots and how they're going to be cut. I almost feel like when you get those notes the next day, oh, we don't have enough coverage. That's my favorite note. And
Oh, what
then
coming
the
down from
director's
editing?
scaring,
The director,
getting scared, and I go,
Yeah.
you know what? Why don't we shut down? Give me 1 hour. I'm going to go to post-production. I'm going to cut
I gotta cut it.
that scene the way that we talked about it, because I know it's there.
Yeah.
I know when I left to go home last night, whether you're shooting film and you're waiting for the dailies, or
Yeah.
or they go in and see the dailies and you can't because they're looking at it at the lab
Yep,
in the morning.
yep.
Anyway, there's just I always know in my head when I leave that setup or that scene with those 4 setups, I know that it can cut, and I
Yeah.
know the points that you're gonna cut. That maybe this person's talking with all the dialogue, but they're number 5 on the call sheet, but the story is about the guy who's listening.
Exactly.
So I know that that's the most important shot that we
Yep.
can get.
Yeah.
Which goes back to, shooting overs at the same time. A director's only going to be able to watch usually the person talking
Yeah.
and not the person listening.
Which sometimes is the story.
Oh my God, most of the time
Yeah.
it's the story. And it's amazing because a good actor who doesn't have any lines, I'd rather watch that all day long.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time too in cuts.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just watching this person listen to this other person.
Absolutely. You know what this just makes me think. So on the website, I have this thing called the breakdown, where operators basically, Don's done a bunch of them, where they
Well,
talk
mediocre operators.
Well, yeah. No, I mean,
Separate
I
categories.
You can
started
get.
with you, and then I'm working up to better operators. But break down a scene or a shot or whatever. And just yesterday, I had an operator from Chicago named Gary Maloof, who's a fantastic operator, and he does The Bear. Have you seen The Bear?
Yes.
So he the first a little while ago he did that huge oneer that he did in season episode 7. That's the entire episode, and he just talked through it, and it was amazing. And just yesterday he talked through the end of the second season, which has a 13-minute handheld shot. And one of the things that we were talking about that he does so well is, you have like people sitting at a table, having dinner together. And they had to make choices of coverage, obviously. And sometimes it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But like when you cover, and there's one thing where there's 3 people talking, and he only follows one of them, and everything is on her face. And the great thing is, she's in love with the guy who's the chef, and he actually calls it out, and he goes, the first take I stayed with her when she said, I love you, and then I went up to him. But the second take, I realized what he was doing, and as she was saying it, I went up to him, and on his face, you can see everything in the world of, he doesn't even say anything, but like, I am so not ready to hear that from you. I'm completely frightened, and I'm turning and I'm going back into the kitchen. And it's an amazing moment, but it's what you were talking about.
So there's an operator that understands the
No,
story.
absolutely. I mean, actually, if you get a chance to watch it, he's so good. Gary, just sidetracking, but Gary was my B camera operator on Justified that I did with John Lindley and Jeff Greeley. And John hired him and said, hey, I want you to meet him before the show. And Gary and I went out, and The Bear wasn't out yet. So I said, what have you been doing? I did the show The Bear and a lot of blah, blah, blah. And he goes, actually, there's this one long handheld shot that, maybe when it comes out, you could take a look at. And I forgot about it. And then it came out. And I called him up and I said, hey, what was that? What? See, episode 7. I turn it on and it starts. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And it goes. And then it's 17 minutes later, it ends. And I called him up. I was like, Gary, it's not a long shot. It's an episode. And he goes, well, that's a long shot. And I'm like, no, that's like a different category. And I don't know about what you thought, but like, I don't think that story could have been told better than doing it that way. It's not a gimmick.
It captures the energy of what that show is.
Absolutely. It was so good. Fantastic. And his operating is so good.
It never felt arbitrary. It never felt like, oh, look at us.
It never felt. The interesting thing that he told me about that is they didn't let him see it for a while because they wanted
no rehearsal.
So they rehearsed for like 2 days so that they could all just inhabit the space. And the other thing, which has to do with that show, but whatever, I'm going on a major sidetrack, but I don't care. It's my show. Is they're all actually making food. So when they're off camera, they're literally making fries and making burgers and whatever. So everything in the kitchen is live, so that if something changed, he always had places to go, or if he went early, they were doing something. And then he went in, I think he went in once with an iPhone, and just so his assistant and he could sort of figure out the path. And he has this overhead that I showed it that he had that was like drawn out, which was crazy. And then they just started shooting it because he was like, look, it's going to happen or it's not, and we're going to learn, and let's just go for it. And
what fun, huh?
They did it like 6 times, and he's an incredible storyteller. It's really worth checking out. And then Don's are okay. I mean, they're sort of filler.
I mean, what we're talking about here, is understanding editing too, which I think is so key to the process in general. Directors sometimes will have a full cut in their head. They'll know exactly what they need.
Yep.
Fantastic. That's amazing. It doesn't always happen.
Well, I was just going to say, that can be great and it can be a trap because it's great to have, but not.
If they're good.
Tommy Shalami is a perfect example. Like, Tommy will have an absolute director that we've all worked with. He'll have an absolute idea, but he'll throw it out at the drop of a hat if something better comes along. And he doesn't, craft service guy could bring it in. He doesn't care where it comes from. If it's a better way to tell the story.
Good idea wins.
And I think he's smart enough, obviously he's been doing this long enough, to know that you can have the best idea in your mind, but when you get in the room with the actors, it's something quite often different than what you expected, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully better.
I'm working on Bridgerton with one director who, and on Queen Charlotte was one director. This guy was amazing, Tom Barrica. And his shot lists are very simple. He'd send it to me in the morning. It'd be 5 shots for a scene, 3 sometimes. Never showy like a 1. That show tends to be cutty. It's a lot of dialogue. So, but he understands that there's some basic stuff that he needs, and he wanted to convey that. But he gives you a sense of the direction he wants to look in and how he's going to block it. And he'll block to fit those shots. He knows how to talk to the actors in terms of what they need to get to a certain spot, not just it's prettier over here. They don't really care about that.
Yeah.
You're going to be against the window. It's going to be a nice silhouette or whatever. He'll find reasons actor reasons, because he's an actor as well, to get them to where he needs them for the coverage.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, he's fully open to other ideas about how to shoot. So I'll say, well, let's do that. And I can also give you this one through the door. Why don't we start out here and move in? He's open for all that as long as he gets his basic 3 or 4 or 5 shots for that scene. So, but that's not always the case. And knowing the editing, because you have to prioritize. A director with a lot of shots wants every shot, and they all have to look amazing, but it's not possible. We know what the time frame is, and we have to focus on getting the key moments. So every DP, I think, goes through that and goes, well, okay, this is a real key shot. This is the one we should spend the time on getting it right. And these other 3 things are one shot or a cutaway. I'm not going to be able to put too much effort into it because we just have to get going here. So
Don, so you were saying you're editing in your mind as you're shooting, and Jeff, I think you probably are too.
Yeah.
But so Don, if you come up and go, you know what, we need another interstitial piece here because this isn't going to cut to
He'll
that.
tell me that.
I was going
He'll
to
never tell the director.
Will you bring? That was my question.
Never talk to the director. Will have no idea. He'll go to me and go, "They're never going to use this."
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Or no,
I'm
but
like,
more so if you're actually if you think you're missing a piece, if there's something that's missing in the edit, do you go to Jeff with it though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's certain times, like I said earlier, that all of us together. That's one of the moments that I want his filter before. I feel it's important because I'm going to tell him.
Yeah.
But I want him to second that. And
Gotcha.
Say,
so going to him
I
before
agree
the
with
director.
you, or
yeah.
This isn't the time. He's about to lose it.
Yeah.
And I do think, going back to what you guys were talking about with the takes and knowing editing, the actors want to know what 4 shots are we going to do? Are we going to really do 10?
Yeah.
Because I can't do this.
Yeah, right.
Which one are you going to use for this moment?
Where do I expend
Which
the
one are you going to
energy?
use for this moment?
Yeah.
Story-wise, I kind of know where the cut would be that I would do, and I've never worked with an actor who doesn't want to know.
Yeah.
Why in the world did we just shoot this for 8 hours
when we're never going to be in the
going
shot?
down on my close-up?
Yep.
It's like, I wish I could answer that question.
The common trap is the big arrival, driving down the street, getting out of the car, walking up the steps, coming in the door, and
I was just
landing
thinking of this.
with no dialogue.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
lunch.
actor is huge, and you spend hours doing this, and then you get to the close up, and it's like you have 10 minutes to get 3 shots.
Yeah, because the sun's going down, and you're like, and the funny thing is always it's they're going to the actor. I'm so sorry you don't have any time for this, and it's like, but it's your fault. You just walk them in 13 different shots.
Yeah,
this is the scene.
And we've had that conversation too, where it's like, well, first of all, it's noon, so why do the drive up in the worst light possible?
Yeah.
Why not do? They come in the door.
Yeah.
We get those 3 shots. By then, that gives us 3 or 4 hours for the sun to go down to this beautiful spot.
Yep.
You don't even have to tell them that. You can just sort of, and I always try to keep the actors involved. I never, as Jeff knows, even when we first started working together, I was just like, oh my God, the actors. Do we really need them? And then that evolves to, well, that's the most important part of what we do is the performance. Yeah. Every director in every film school should know that the most important thing for them for to be a good director is to get the performance from the actors. That's number one.
Yeah, because you're going to help with all the rest, the others.
No one else is going to talk to them about that performance.
That's exactly right.
The director is it,
and they want that person. They want that person, which sometimes turns into me, as an operator,
because you're 3 feet away, right?
Will be the contact. They want that person to know the story as well as they do.
Yep.
And they're hoping it's the director, but when that doesn't work out quite right, it kind of goes to, they're constantly looking for somebody to guide them.
Yeah.
I just saw the Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
It was a panel, and the 2 actors were there. The woman who plays the lead and DiCaprio, and the DP was there. And she said exactly that, which is that sometimes we would do a take. She put her hand on the DP and says, the camera department was my best friend because I would do a take. She's incredible in the film, I think. Yeah. And she said, I relied on the camera often, the department and the DP in particular. I think he was operating himself.
Rodrigo Prieto.
Yes.
And Scott Sakamoto was the operator, but I don't know how much Rodrigo does. And Scott, the Steadicam, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she would look, obviously, to them after a take. And
did I get it?
They would respond.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting position for you guys to be in.
There's no question.
And there's a lot of trust that has to happen for actors to do that. Well, but because you guys are so close, they want to know. You watch every actor when they say cut, they're looking for something. Yeah. How did I do? What was it? Often the director is way the hell off somewhere.
Isn't going to be in for half a minute.
Do it again. Yeah. From far away.
And that time stretches. It could be 30 seconds before the there's any notes. And,
Before
and I've talked to actors about this too,
Yeah.
since video assist and everything. And it's like, isn't this the most fun of the filmmaking process? Between
dead times.
cut
Yeah.
and the notes.
Yeah.
It's like they have to go. It's like, are they even here? Are they
Yeah.
where?
No, I know.
It's like, come right. We need to know right now.
But Don, I mean, we've talked about this. There is that thing of like you're in a close-up, so you're 4 feet away from someone, and as soon as they call cut, they're sort of looking around, and they invariably look right at you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll usually give them a big thumbs down if I didn't know.
Well, now we don't have assistants right there either, because they
no,
would
exactly, yeah.
play off of
but
that,
I think like literally just coming off and giving them a smile or something like that lets them know, like, you know, I mean, and it's a weird. I don't know about you, but for me, it's a weird thing because, like, look, on a human level, I want to go like, I thought that was great, but I also don't want to give them feedback that the director comes in and goes, "That's exactly wrong. I don't want that." It's like, but he seemed to like it. Like, I don't want to get in
and
that.
he's looking through the camera.
I know. So, you know.
No,
so it's a weird thing.
For the
right?
longest time, I would just do technical, even before video assist. It would be, it was good technically. I'm not talking about performance because that's not my position. Even though we all evolve into seeing amazing performances, and it seems like there's more amazing performances now than there used to be, and I don't know why that is, or if it's just that I'm starting to see that. I could never.
I think you're less critical.
I could never direct. And maybe that's why I feel I'm comfortable, and as an operator, and even as a DP, I can't be that close to the line, but I can be just next to the line.
It removes you a little bit.
It removes me from the pressure, and I feel like I can. You know, Jeff makes fun all the time when he tries to get me in to shoot second unit or
to DP second unit,
or do overlap days. Oh, Don, you're going to do it, and he loves to watch me sweat. You know? Because it is. It's like I could.
You and I need to get tickets and go over to England and just sit and watch him operate. Oh, that's great.
I've been working. I worked remotely on the second season because of COVID and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's using remote heads, so I thought, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So I worked with a Libra head, and that was always on set, and I was off set, so I was with actually the director closer. So it was nice in a way. You're in a dark space. You have a nice big monitor.
Sure.
I was standing, so I was very comfortable to work that way. It removes you from the set, which wasn't great.
Me.
You guys know this because you probably do remote stuff as well.
Yeah.
You're disconnected from the actor.
It was a big thing for a while, and I got back in the room as soon as I could. Just because, I mean, personally, I just like to have my hands on the camera. I just feel like there's a connection. But also, I just felt badly for the actors. It's like you're there, and there's a guy with a hazmat suit 6 feet away behind a big piece of metal, and that's the only other person in the room.
Yeah.
You know,
well, that's great because you guys really care about what we're talking about.
That's. I mean, that's what you try to, right?
That's where the magic happens.
Have you had a situation with the two of you where the director was telling Don to do one thing, and I mean, I'm not saying that you would want something different than the director, but suddenly it's like, you know, we're totally changing this, and the director comes in with a completely different idea.
I think Don will always come to me and tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
There'll be no surprises, and it's not just Jeff. It's any DP.
That's part of your job. Yeah.
Yeah, I would never. You know, even if it's, you know, all the hypothetical stuff.
I realized as I was asking, is like, Jeff's not the right person. Because what I was thinking, Don and I talked about this, because I know you've been in it and I've been in it, where the director and the DP are not getting along, and one is saying one thing. But then as I asked it, I was like, you're not that person, because you'd be like, okay, yeah, what do you need? You know.
Well, the bad situation is they'll go to the operator because they are not talking to the DP,
yeah.
Or they may like the operator better, or the operator's being cool and funny to that person, so they're creating a relationship that's cutting the DP out, and that's very awkward. And I've been in a situation where you just feel like the operators maybe a frustrated DP, or they want to, you know, sort of make their stand and, you know, let everybody know that they're
in
king.
charge.
And that's terrible. It's a horrible situation. So
being frustrated craft service is better.
Absolutely. On a particular note, not that has to do with the two of you, when you think back, Jeff, on operators that you've had who aren't good or who you didn't like, and you don't have to name them or the show, what are the things that I mean, not talking about framing. I mean, I'm assuming everybody knows how to frame or whatever.
Not always.
But for people, well, no, I'm assuming that, if it's framing, that's another thing. Let's assume they know how to frame.
Well,
Are there things that an operator can do that just aren't, it's not healthy for?
Well, that's a big one. Creating a relationship with a director separate from you.
Sure. Yeah.
And that happens. And if a director encourages that, then it can be very awkward.
You're going down a
then you have
road.
to kind of find a way into that, or just talk to them and say, "Look, I need to be included. Let
Sure.
me know what.
Yeah.
At least let me know what they said to you, so that I'm part of it. I don't want you going off and shooting something that's not lit or whatever.
Absolutely.
Just let me know."
Yeah.
Which I don't understand that question. I don't understand how somebody could be in our position and
allow that to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not the DP.
Yeah.
If the director wants me to be the DP, then we need to figure out another way of doing this.
Yeah.
I'm sort of just the opposite. I know the chain of command.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm hired by the DP 90% of the time, if not more. And my job is to make his job easier. And if I'm not doing that, or if there's any conflict at all, if I'm not seeing something that, or if you feel you could do it, I'm not doing the shot you want, do it.
Yeah.
Or fire me and bring somebody else in, who can work with it. I mean, occasionally it'll be an operator that's worked with the director before, especially episodic or something. They might have crossed paths before, and so they just feel it's just they feel like they're doing shorthand and it's actually going to work.
Yep.
And it's like it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. You got to go from the general down to the private.
Yeah.
And you have to do that every time. You can't change it up. It just makes it
tough.
It just makes it really a bad situation.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, even when if for some reason Jeff gets a flat tire or something, or any DP that I've ever worked with, and when I go to the set, the first thing I ask all the assistants is, the DP here yet?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going on the set. I don't want to be.
Because they're going to suddenly start. I've been on that where they're like, "Hey, he's not here. Why don't you start lighting?"
Exactly.
And it's like,
and I'm
let
going,
me get him on the phone and find out what he wants to do.
And so I'm hiding.
Yeah.
Or I'll go. I'm not joking about this. I'll go to the bathroom. I will go someplace.
It's interesting that you bring this up, because I want to do a separate podcast with you, which is just called Hiding, where you can give the tips on how to hide on set, where to hide on set.
Bathroom's always the good one.
I have
never
this,
think
I have
we go
this
to the
image
bathroom.
of you standing behind like the wardrobe rack, like with a mustache on, looking around. And then the DP comes in and you walk on set.
Yeah. No, I just don't think that's
Yep.
fair, unless Jeff calls me and
Yeah.
says, "Oh God, Don, I have a flat tire. I know that we're going to start with this scene.
Do a lot of DPs get flat tires with you? Is that something that
Yep.
happens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out the operators are causing these.
Well, that's what I was wondering. It's like they're putting
that
tacks out in the driveway the night before.
Except this one. This one's like,
That's the only
I love operating. Please don't let me.
I don't want a light.
Yeah.
Please don't get a flat
I would.
tire.
My perfect world, and Jeff knows this too, is one camera, DP operator.
Yep.
Beautiful script, great actors. Everybody wants to do the show. I'm all in. But that doesn't exist.
It's Panic, right?
So
Panic was one of them. For
well,
you.
but it wasn't just
were
me
you
operating
the
DP.
DP
He was the DP.
Were you the DP at Panic?
Mhm.
Yeah.
For some reason, I missed that.
Yeah.
I watched it. Well, he did a breakdown of the scene
Yes.
at the bar,
I know.
which so many
And
people liked
A
because
camera
it was
operator
just
that shows a shot that does not move.
it was
I
so
think
great.
tells you everything you need
It
to know.
was so great. I mean, so many people contacted me and were like, "This was so great," because there are so many times where I'm like, "Why are we moving? Why are we doing this?"
Yeah.
No, it was great. And then I watched it. What a great movie! Like a
It's
little gem
lovely
that I
little
didn't even know
piece.
existed.
Great
and
cast.
Sort of makes you wonder. Like I look through Netflix and I'm like, how many of those are out here? And then I try to watch something. I'm like, well, that wasn't it. That's the problem. But yeah. And what about B camera for you, Jeff? Like, what makes a good B camera operator?
That they work with the A cam. That they can, if they're the right type of person that can give me ideas about where they can get a shot that I maybe didn't see. Like, oh, it's just an A camera shot. We're just going to do this with A camera, and they'll say, well, I can get this. Do you want me to try and get a profile? Do you want me to get a close up of this, whatever?
Yeah.
That's great. So somebody that you can interact with and has ideas about the coverage and the shot.
And so you like them
Fantastic.
to be looking for something they can bring you and say, hey, does this work for you? Does this work for you?
Some shows, yes,
Yeah.
more. Other
Depending on
times,
the
I'm
show, of
like,
course.
I'm not really lit for that, and now you're compromising the lighting.
Yep.
This is not a great thing. I don't need it all the time, but once in a while, I'll encourage it because it's right for the show,
Mhm.
and the director wants this sort of stuff. I've done 3-camera shows, and it makes my head explode, but it's fun. It's like 3D chess. It's like anybody can shoot with 1 camera.
Yeah.
Here, try it with 3. Now,
It's faster.
now what do you do?
It's much
And
I mean,
so
3
it's
camera
fun.
shows, you do the show in a third of the time, though, right? It's much faster, isn't
No,
it?
because
You're
you need
right.
a live audience. As soon as you bring
that's
in
so
the
it's a
third
half hour.
camera, the union requires you to have a live
I'm
audience.
convinced
exactly
you
right.
could do all of those shots with 1 camera faster than you could do it. Try
I
to
will
light with
say
3
the one
cameras.
time that I've done, actually, I may be the only time I've done 3 cameras. Yeah. I was on Hollywood with Simon Dennis. Do you know Simon? It's a great, great DP. And I showed up halfway through the season as a camera steady cam, and we had a great B operator, and there was a C camera, and I was like, ooh, what's going on here? But the cool thing was his only job was to find sort of cool artistic things that were just these little bridges, and he would literally, he'd sometimes shoot for 20 seconds of something, and the interesting thing is I would watch what he was doing, and what he was getting was really cool and really interesting. The problem, I think, in the cut was they always felt like they had to use 3 cameras, and and now I don't know, maybe that was the style of the show and it just wasn't my style, but it was so choppy that I couldn't watch.
That's the
I had
scary
a
part.
trouble.
The scary part is when quantity
Yeah.
takes over from quality. And I
Yeah.
think that's another reason a B camera operator needs to know the cuts also.
Yeah.
We all need to know if we give them that shot, they're going to use that shot. And so that means we need a complementary of that shot. And then is that going to be the best performance
Yep.
or are we just all of a sudden just kind of racking up there's nothing worse than having somebody get so excited about how many setups at the end of the day.
Yes.
We did 184 setups. Woo!
Back to John
And I'm
Lindley.
just like, how about one good one?
John Lindley always, we did 72 setups today, and he'll go, yeah, were any of them good? Because that's really what I'm more
It doesn't
interested
matter.
in.
I
It's
get
not a
paid by the
numbers game.
setup.
But I think that what you're saying is the difference is the B camera grabbing something that we needed, and therefore we're moving ahead, or is it creating something extra that,
Most of the
obviously we
time
didn't
it's
need
the
because it
latter
would have been
because-
on the list.
Because
right?
nobody's thinking about it and they're being hired to
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah.
So they're just thinking, well, we need to get
Yep.
all these shots. And it's like, well, if you're going to do that, maybe we should just do side by side.
Yeah.
Let's do the over and the single.
Yep.
Let's not worry about the B camera and the wide shot. Let's not try to go on a 500 millimeter and try to grab the
Yep.
insert.
Yeah, and then there are those directors that you work with who are like, the B camera isn't doing anything. We should find something
Yeah.
for them. And then it's just like,
Or send them out
Often
to
they
the
can't
hostess.
they can't even breathe if there's only 1 camera. It's like
yeah. Well, because I think
faint.
part of it is like they're worried that the producers are going to come down and say, why do
Of
we have 2
course.
cameras if we're
there's
not using them?
enormous pressure on the directors. You have to have some sympathy for what they
Yeah,
have to
no,
deal with.
understood. Yeah,
part of
absolutely.
the job,
Especially
I think.
episodic directors,
Yeah.
who are
And they're thrilled when they get those extra shots for some reason.
But I think a lot of times they look at them as those shots. They don't look at them as the scene.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a cool shot because the sun's going down and behind
Sure.
their shoulder, and it's like,
But you
But
can't
they're
cut to
not-
it because of X, Y, and
Yeah,
Z.
it's like-
Yeah.
it's like, but all of a sudden, it's kind of like when the fire truck goes by and everything. Okay, well, fire truck. You're going,
That's production value.
yeah,
Yes, but this is a show about flowers.
yes. Not anymore.
That's exactly right. That's a very good. I like that. I like the fire truck.
So the B camera has to tread that
Yeah.
sort of difficult.
I think
Line.
in many ways being a good B camera operator is harder than being a good A camera operator because you have sort of less authority, but you have more problems in some way or more battles that you have to sort of
You
figure
did B
out.
camera for me on Blind Justice.
Was I B camera on that?
Your B cam, I think.
I don't remember.
You did the Steadicam,
I did
but then
say-
you were relegated to B cam.
I might have been.
I just remember you being in jail cells and things, and you were so unhappy about it.
And
wasn't
I
film
shot
related.
the, and
It
I
was
shot the show.
just
Oh,
you.
yeah, that was an
Were you
interesting
A cam?
show.
I don't know.
I might have been. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember who else
I
that was.
remember. Yeah.
That's all kind of a blur. I mean, I do remember working with you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had fun on that show. It wasn't the
Yeah.
greatest show,
Yeah.
but we had fun on that show. And then I did Invasion with both of you, where I was
Right.
B camera, steady cam, and he was A camera. And I remember shooting those hurricane sequences with those massive fans, and just like it
Yeah.
was insane.
We were in Florida. Were you in Florida?
I went down to Florida with
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and into the Everglades. Aren't there alligators in there, or crocodiles, or
Sure.
whatever's in the alligators? They're like, oh, there's nets. I'm like, yeah, that's not an answer that makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah, there's a guy with a stick
Yeah.
off camera. You know, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be
Take
fine.
care.
Yeah, he's got one arm. And I just remember it, like we would turn the lights off sometimes, and you would hear, whoosh,
Yeah,
and it would be the sound of them going in the water.
that's right.
And there was something where one of the actors had to like jump into the water
Yes.
at night into this like net thing, and I'm just like, I'm gonna roll no matter what happens here, because it's either for the trial or for the show, but something important is going down here.
I always say that before we roll and everything I work on.
Exactly.
It'll be
All
good
of
for
these
the
is
insurance
it's
claim.
other evidence, or it'll be in the movie one way or the other. Because Don has talked about it, but from your perspective, can you talk about Don working with actors? And because I know he works well with actors, but
Absolutely.
are there things that you see that
so important. Again, it's the trust. I worry sometimes with operators. It's gonna be prickly or difficult or awkward, putting them in a situation close to the actors, and it's gonna
because
change
of their personality? You're saying
their personality.
Yeah,
They're gonna
yeah,
change the tone of the set, and
yeah,
you worry about that.
yeah,
And then with Don, I just know not only is it gonna be fine, it's actually gonna be better. They're gonna start to trust that person, and the performance is gonna be amazing because of it. So yeah, that's so key, I think.
But besides his good looks, which is a whole nother thing, and it's good that we're on a podcast, is there something part of his personality that you think achieves that or
Well,
allows
sure. I
that?
think it's a trust and a likability that he has that actors respond to.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and they know that he's looking out for them.
yeah,
That's really key.
yeah. Well, and also part of it, and I've only worked with Don that once, but I'm assuming because I
Not
think
true.
we worked more than once.
Mhm.
We worked on Invasion, and we worked on what?
Jurassic Park 3 up in.
Oh wait, actually no. And we worked on what was that movie that you pulled me into the first time I met you?
Oh,
Jeff?
not with Jeff though. That was with Shelley.
No, but I worked on
Yeah, Joyride.
Joyride, which you were on.
Oh yeah, that's I
And
think
then
when I first
Jurassic
worked with
Park
you.
3, which I was on that for a week and did like one shot. Is that considered working?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll
yeah,
take
as
that
long
then.
as it's over $100 million.
Yeah, okay,
show,
good,
sure.
good.
In
And then
2000,
and
yeah.
then Invasion. But anyway, but I was saying something. Yes, as I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that at least the operators that I know who pull that off well, it's that they have respect for what the actors have to do, and I think the actors notice that. I mean, don't you think that's part of it?
I totally think that that's what it is, but I also think it's I approach it the same way as I approach a director,
Yeah,
a DP, an actor. I feel that those are the people that are going to set the tone.
yeah,
For me, I'm sort of a chameleon. If they want me to do it this way, then I'll do it that way. I'll sort of, in the first week, sort of say, well, maybe this might be an idea or something to think about.
hmm
If I get shot down a bunch of times, then we don't talk much,
Yeah.
depending on who it is. With Jeff, it's great because I feel like 99% of the time we're on the exact same page.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't even, it's sort of course, that's the shot that we would do. Why wouldn't we do that?
yeah.
But I also feel that if an actor comes in and is very quiet and everything's internal, then I become the actor. That's how I am. I'm quiet. I'm
You take your
internal.
lead off of them. You're saying.
Totally. If they come in joking,
Yeah.
I'll joke with them, and then if it's quiet time, I don't joke anymore.
What if they
Not
come in stark raving mad? Do you?
clothed or nude?
Could go either way.
Yeah, it does make a difference for me.
That's an interesting thing.
My eye line changes.
Um,
Another pet peeve: eye lines. We could do a whole episode.
yeah, we're going to do an episode on hiding and an episode on eye lines.
Good
Yeah,
God.
I've said it before here. Is like there's a director that I've worked with before who has to have the eye lines correct when two people are talking on the phone and it's cutting back and forth. And my thing is always, do you think anyone's going to be confused as to who's talking to who?
So they have to look in opposite
Yeah,
directions.
they have to look in.
Is that more important than the performance?
Yeah. No, there's that, but it's also like, but the big thing to me is the eye line is there just so people don't get confused. And if you do something that people don't get confused, then it's not a problem anymore. So again, there's only two people on the phone call. It's not cutting away to me in another room. Like, it's clearly that they're talking to each other. He can't, like, he'll have it drawn out and no, he has to look that way. All right, fine.
The happiest time for me on a set is when you see the actors joking with Don. And
that's
you
great.
realize
That's
that
great.
that relationship is great. You don't have to worry about it. And when you need something from the actor, like hitting a mark or an over, or like, could you just stand up a little slower, whatever, you don't have to do it. Don will take care of it. He'll, like with the dolly grip with everybody on the set, he'll work out the machinations of how to get that shot, how to get that take.
So meaning that you'll be watching the monitor, see some problem that happened in a take, and you don't even think about it because you know it's being taken care
He'll
of.
dial it in, and he has that trust with them so that
That's great.
Comfortable.
That's a wonderful thing, though. I like the idea about when you see them joking, you know that everything's cool.
It's going to be okay. Yeah.
Or they're about to fire me.
Or they're
there's a fine
the
line.
producers are knocking in, coming in the door. Yeah.
Well, Don keeps the set light, which I like, and he'll make sure that the vibe around the camera is positive and fun.
Yeah.
Which is the way I like to work.
Which is the way it should be, because at the end of the day, it's like we're not
People like a more
cancer.
serious, silent set. I like a little more festive feel.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. I worked with a still photographer as an assistant who played music in his studio when we were working. I was like, this is great. So I brought that to the set. And people come up to me years later like, oh, you played music on the set. It was so great. 80s, not so crazy about it. They find it makes things a little looser than they like.
Yeah.
But even actors have come up to me and said, this is great. I try to dial, you have to be a good DJ. You have to dial in the right music for the right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not playing like death
right
metal and
exactly.
Which looking at you, I think that's probably the first place I'd go. Well, this has really been great. Is there anything you want to add to
That's
sort
it?
of I don't know. You can say more if you want. What else? We've been talking for a while.
Okay.
There's a lot of good stuff here.
Just getting started.
Well, you can keep going. I mean, anything you want to add to just like, for younger operators, any thoughts on succeeding?
I'll say if I'm looking at an operator to hire them, I try to get on the set to see how they're
Spy
operating,
on them
to
a little
watch
bit
it.
and see. Yeah.
I can tell in 10 minutes if somebody has it or not for me.
Can you define how you can, or what?
Yeah, by the choices they make within a take, especially that first take. Like, what are they looking at? And are they correcting throughout? Are they nailing it right away? And when they nail it, is it a good choice?
Yeah.
It's just those choices.
Uh-huh.
You can look at people's reel once it's cut, and you might be seeing take 7.
Sure.
And you might be seeing a cutaway from second unit. You don't know what you're looking at. It's all good, usually. The reels are always good.
Yeah.
But when you're on the set seeing somebody making those choices first up with how the actors are moving, the dolly's moving, the crane, whatever, you can tell right away, oh, this is great. They're making a deliberate choice about that moment. There's stuff that Don's done. I remember I told you a little bit about some of the choices. There's always the showy shots, the big, wonders, whatever. But I'm always amazed at the subtlety of what he does quite often, which is we did a shot down a hallway and an actor sort of moved off to the side. It was a slow push in, and then it ended on a medium close up. But how he got to that close up and then moved so that they exited so that you ended up symmetrical, and just somehow how the camera moved very simply. Mm-hmm. There were choices to be made, and often an operator will overreact to how an actor moves. Like, oh, they're moving. Oh, they're not really moving. Letting the frame letting them play the frame.
Yeah, moving every time they move.
Every time they move. Yeah.
That's a big pet peeve of mine.
It's funny. I was on Mad Men with a different operator. Don did Mad Men for many years.
Yeah.
I came in and shot a few things, and I was working with a different operator, and the camera was doing a little bit of that, like a little bit of breathing, which happens. It's sort of normal.
Yep.
Especially on a first take.
Yep.
And Matt Weiner, whose show it was there at the time, and he says, "We got to cut. I can't use this." I'm like, I didn't even know what he was talking about. He said, yeah, the camera's moving around. I'm like, Oh, you mean the little? Yeah, yeah. No, I can't. In the cutting room, I can't use any of that. It was a really big reaction to what I thought was a small thing.
Yeah.
But I realized on that show in particular, it was very particular how the camera needed to move.
Yep.
And so what Don did and why he stayed there so long, I think, is because he understood that and executed all the time.
Yeah.
Those movements that fit the story and fit the movement of the actor perfectly, even when it was small stuff.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I remember when I was on ER when I started and I didn't know what I was doing. Terrence Nightingale, who was my assistant, who was really the reason that I survived that show because he held my hand a lot. About 2 weeks in, once I'd sort of gotten used to what I was supposed to do as an A camera operator, I was doing, I don't know, a wide shot and someone was walking through the frame and he came up to me afterwards and he goes, the camera doesn't always have to move. I was like, what? And he goes, just let him walk across the frame. You don't have to like adjust constantly. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I started thinking about that. And I realized like I was doing that thing where like, it's a big wide shot and someone stands up and for no reason you just adjust up a little bit because you're like, oh, well, he's standing up. So I got to do something.
Right.
But that was the first time I thought about that, I guess. And I think that's what it takes is people like showing you that. And then you start thinking about it and then hopefully you stop doing it.
Just because they yell action doesn't mean you have to do anything.
Yeah, or as Jeff, Jeff Greeley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Jeff Greeley always says sliders don't have to slide. Because sometimes you'll get newer operators on the slider and they're just like, shh, shh, shh. It's like, like speed skaters or something. And it's like, no.
I don't think you'll ever see a slider on Don's camera. I don't know.
Not my choice.
He always tries to work with really good dolly grips.
Yeah.
And so that's that person who can help you get your shot. There's key as the operator.
There's no question about that.
Yeah. Don did a shot in Carnival that I always think about. That
Carnival was weird.
Amazing.
To interrupt just for a second, because I didn't start Carnival because I was on another show.
Yeah.
And Chris Lombardi, I think, was the operator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chris came in and did that, and then I think I came in and did some B, and then the second season I think I came in and did some A while they were pushing Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
Each time it was like, and Jeff was like, well, wait, you want to come in? Because they were alternating. And you were like, would you come in and do A camera for me? I thought, oh, this is perfect. 2 weeks on and 2 weeks
2 weeks on. Yeah.
And anyway, that was.
And it was a shot. It was a period thing. And we're following a carriage, I think a horse and carriage, tearing across the frame. So the camera had to pan with the carriage at night and stop blindly at a point so that when the carriage clears, you see two people standing on the side of the road.
But of course, you don't see them because the
You don't see them, so you have to know where to stop.
Yeah.
So he did it once, first take, perfect, nailed it, no correction. Once the carriage cleared, it was a perfect frame, and the director was like, "I bet he can't do that again." And I said, "Oh yeah, well, let's do another take." And sure enough, we did a second take, and Don nailed it again. And the director was like, "Go." I should have bet him. But anyway, it was a great moment that
I don't think that was me.
Those are really hard, but I know what you mean. Those are really hard.
It's a blind stop.
Well, and the thing that I think you end up learning as an operator is obviously you've got to try to get your muscle memory, but the key is you just got to do it and commit and hope to God that when the carriage goes, that when you go, oh my God, it's there, you don't actually move the camera again.
And I'll add that it was a geared head as well.
Yeah.
Set on 3.
But that's a good correction. Don't, you either do it and correct.
Yeah.
Or you just do it.
You just do it. Well,
and to me, nowadays, that's something that I try to tell new operators. It's like, have a plan.
Yeah.
On whatever shot you're doing, don't try to figure it out as you're doing it. Have a plan.
Figure it out ahead of time.
If they're walking over and you're going to hand off to this person, are you going to start before they finish their dialogue so that it's a smooth move? Or are you going to get all of their dialogue and then come back to that? Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's just distracting. So, figure out, you can work with the actor to finish the line there. You can start coming down early. It's okay that you don't have to see every line.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of have a plan.
Yeah. And understand what you're going to do. And I think that the key to what you were just saying about that shot, Jeff, is land. Because if you land and then you do an adjustment, you've lost the shot. So
we commit to your choice.
Commit to it.
Even if it's not the exact one you want, you commit to it. And then you can adjust when there's the right moment to
Yeah, or when you know
adjust.
there's a cut or something or other. But even if not, you commit and then say, "Why'd you do that?" And it's just like, "I thought that was a better frame." No, that wasn't a better frame. Okay, well, you didn't like that. I could do it again. And
Yeah.
but
No, if you
once you've nailed it and then corrected, the
Yeah.
shot's over.
And the nail that you think is perfect, like you just said, is
Yep.
it could be 3 lines over, or it could be a foot
Yep.
to the left, and it's still the shot.
Yeah.
That is the shot. If you correct, then it doesn't become the shot
That is not
anymore,
the shot
and you
anymore. It's a
gotta do it
mistake
again.
that
Yeah,
they're
that's a
going to
mistake.
use, and that's the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the editing is gonna get you.
Yep. And then you're going to groan when
And
you
it's
see it on
and it's
TV.
okay. I mean, what is the perfect frame? I still don't know what that is.
Well, that's true.
Seriously, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, the consistency I think is more important.
Yeah.
If that's the headroom that you're going for, if you're stretching the frame a little bit more for this project, for
Well,
this
and I think
storytelling.
on that note, that it's not like you said, there is no perfect frame, but there's knowing what you like and what tells the story, and then that's what you're going to go for, and then hopefully being able to adjust if Jeff comes in and goes, you know what, we've been talking about it, it's much less headroom on this show, or it's much
I don't
less
know. I
whatever.
disagree. I think there is a perfect frame for
Yeah.
every set.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the trick is finding it and being on a show that honors that, like a show that has a lot of coverage and a lot of pieces and cut all over the place.
Yeah.
Is one type of show. But the ones that I like when we did Panic, I think I was so happy with the frames. I look at that now and I see the kind of things we were doing, and I felt like the camera was always doing the right thing and framed the right way.
Yeah.
So I think there is a perfect frame.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think there's a perfect frame, or you think there are several perfect frames? Because I think that's more. I mean, they're bad frames.
I
There's
think
no
there's
question.
one.
Do you think there's
perfect
one
frame
perfect
for
all
that
right.
moment? For
Okay.
that moment, with that, whatever you're trying to tell, that story you're trying to tell.
Do you know what I think
and
this
how
is?
the actors
This is a DP thing, because a
and
DP thing.
and what's in the frame behind?
No, but see, but a DP always you can think there's a perfect frame, but as operators, we have to think there's several, because that way we can land any one
Well,
of them.
just show me which one you think is right, and let's
Exactly.
see if it is.
It's covering ourselves.
But even that perfect frame, framed over a little bit, is going to be fine.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know that perfect frame
Yeah, well, that's
is
true.
not that.
Because it's not going to, in the cut, it's not going to go, you could have this or you could have that.
And you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And like, okay, they sat
true.
down there. That's what I did in the rehearsal,
Yeah.
Yep. But he said he wanted to be a little bit more edgy. And then you pan. It's like, no, that you just bought that frame.
It's more important
That's
to
your
land
purchase.
it, even if it's not perfect, than exactly.
That's it.
Yeah,
you
agreed.
that's your
Do
choice.
you find yourself often, Jeff doesn't agree.
I think there's a perfect, because for me, in particular, the background is also a key thing. How in focus it is, how out of focus it is, how it interacts with the foreground. Yes, the actor's in frame, but now I can't see that window or that light bulb or that whatever, that bit of sky. That the whole frame is important to me.
Sure.
And so I want to see that stuff. Yes, a little bit here or there is going to feel the same, going to have the same idea, but those elements, like drop the camera. Now we can see the horizon. Now we have some depth.
Yeah.
Yes, the actor's in frame in both shots, but I like that this is happening instead.
Well, and actually, that's one thing that I don't think operators think about that as often as I think they should. Is everybody talks about foreground, which is important, but background is equally as important,
and foreground and front as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to create that sense of.
But I think people give more. I think people give more emphasis to something in the foreground than they do thinking about the background. Like a lot of times the background is just like, well, it's back there and it's whatever falls. But it's just like you can go 4 inches over to the right and suddenly the background is something totally different, especially if you've got hallways and you've got windows. And
if you're working with an operator that doesn't see that, then you have to work with them quite a bit more.
Do you find yourself tweaking his frames much?
No.
Never.
No, and like I said, he'll give you something better than what you give him.
So there's happy surprises all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
So I'm always happy.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing.
And I'm always surprised.
You like that? Okay. Well, that's what I always say is like, I'd rather you be happy and me be unhappy than me be happy and you be unhappy, because that means
Can't everybody be
something's
happy?
right. Yeah, hopefully everybody's happy.
That's why
I
we're
don't
not.
know. Well,
Dave, you're never happy. So.
No, but I was just teaching a Steadicam course with a bunch of other people. It wasn't just me. And we had a question and answer thing. And one of the guys said, "What's a shot that you put down the rig and you went, I nailed that?" And I went, oh, I don't think that's ever happened. And we looked around the room, and all the other guys who were, been operating for a while was like, yeah, that'd be great. I don't know,
Wow.
and it's not because I don't like it. It's just because I don't know about if you do this, Tom,
I
but
can
I'm
always do
always
one
thinking
more.
like, oh, you know what, I could have done that a little
Yeah.
bit. Like, and it's not a negative thing. I guess it's a positive thing.
Different. And I think we're just too picky.
But I always just think like how I could be finessing it, even though it's perfectly usable and I'm happy with it and it's fine. But
Well, you're a humble guy, and that adds into it. You've done some iconic stuff, Dave. I mean,
thank you.
amazing work. So
I've been very lucky not to screw up things that have been handed
there's
to
a
me.
reason why you keep working on these projects.
Yeah, we'll see. Now that the strike is over, hopefully somebody will call. By the way, if anybody's listening, I'm looking, and so is Don.
Should we give out our phone numbers?
Yeah, well, you're going back to England to do Bridgerton
Yeah, we're
or
finishing up
2, or-
Bridgerton. The third season, which is coming out, I think next year. We're doing reshoots and stuff just a bit to
Yeah.
to finish it off. There's a season 4 of Bridgerton. Hopefully, I think it won't be until next year. The writer's strike pushed that whole thing
Yeah.
down the road a bit. So,
But so you have sort of like a couple seasons ahead of you, it sounds like.
yeah, at least one
Between
more,
the
I
two.
think.
Yeah.
I really loved working on the show. I love working in England. I love being in Europe, close to all the capitals. You can get to any place in 2 hours on a plane, which is amazing. And I'm working with Shondaland, who I've known for over 20 years, going back to the Grey's Anatomy pilot.
Oh,
I
wow.
did with them. So they're great. It's run by these amazing women that just have a no asshole policy, which they really believe in, and
That's why I can't work there.
yeah, that's why I can't
That's
hire.
why
either
we're
you-
not over
that's why I
in
can't hire
England.
Don. That's not
I
true.
have to.
But it's Netflix, and I've had a great experience
That's
with them,
fantastic.
especially in post production, where usually a lot of people come in to weigh in how the show's going to look. It was really just me and the color timer working remotely when we had COVID. We were working. He was transmitting through my iPad at home, so we were doing color timing. And I kept looking around, going, "There's nobody here. It's just you and me, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, this is it. We'll send it to the showrunner, but for notes. But basically, it's just us making the show
Wow.
that we want to make."
That's really
When
cool.
I did Queen Charlotte, which was a spinoff of Bridgerton, it was one director, and Shonda Rhimes was writing all the shows herself, and that was it. It was just the three of us making this project.
So did you just sort of board that as like a feature almost? If it's
Yeah,
one director
that's
and one...
how it felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were supposed to get. It was 6 episodes. We were supposed to get a break between every 2 episodes, and that never happened because everything got jammed
Oh, wow.
together. So we were scouting on Saturdays, or hey, we wrapped. Can we go look at that mansion over on the way back, or whatever? So it was
Good to be an operator.
I was
It
just going
was
to say, and that
100
is why we're operators.
It was over 110 days, I think, altogether for
Oh
6
my
episodes.
gosh. Wow.
But I have the same reaction with directors because I would go home and then the director would get in his car. He was being driven. He would get in his car and then have to get on the phone to do editing remotely while he was being driven home.
Yeah, like
And have meetings, when he got home on his phone and stuff. So
it's even worse. For
that's
them.
when I'm happy to be a DP. And
Yeah.
cut it off there.
Everybody's got it's like one step up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there's more responsibility, I guess, is what it is. So the one thing I have to ask both of you, since you're here, is the big picture. I want to hear about shooting the student films on the big picture.
I don't know if it brought back everything from doing student films and just taking it that extra step, because when you do it as a student, you think that it's amazing, and then you realize 5 years later, if even that
So
it's not.
was there like post-traumatic stress? When you
No,
did
I think it was more just enjoying going back
Yeah.
and reliving that and taking that extra step.
Don and I
Yeah.
were talking about how hard it must have been to do that snap zoom that doesn't work and then reframe and make it look like you're doing it on purpose and not.
It's one of
tipping
the
your
biggest
hand.
laughs. I've seen that movie with an audience. It's one of the biggest laughs in the show. in the movie.
For anybody who hasn't seen it, and you really should go see the big picture. There are 5 student movies it's like the film awards for student films.
Yeah.
And they show the movie. I don't think they show the whole movies. Maybe they just show clips
Clip.
from
Yeah,
them or something.
There's a minute or
And,
two. Yeah.
and there's this one where it's like, it's a jury. It's like
Courtroom.
a courtroom, and it's like dun 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 dun, and the camera zooms in, and it completely misses the guy, and then reframes and finds him, and it's just so funny.
And that was one of those moments where it was you and Chris, and we were like, and there was no video
Christopher
assist.
Guest.
Yeah, Chris Guest.
Oh,
And
that's right. There was no video.
there was no
assist.
video assist, so it was like, okay, so you want to do this, and you want to get to there, but you want to completely miss him, or you want to like split him in half.
Yeah, I
and
remember we
then
had a
get over-
discussion, and it was how funny, how outrageous should it be?
But it's a weird thing when
All
you're
of it
trying to
was.
purposely
All that
screw
discussion.
something up.
Yeah.
Is like how much is too? Where's the line? Like
The diffusion.
yeah.
On-
The diffusion on
was again. It was
whoa,
like
who was that actress?
June Lockhart.
June Lockhart.
June Lockhart, and
Yeah.
there's so much diffusion on her that you
can't tell it's her.
cannot make out who she is.
The entire crew got so enthusiastic. I had the gaffer talking to me like, how bad can we make this look? I got an idea. We'll get basher lights and we'll flatten it out.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
God,
yeah,
that
this is
sounds
great.
like so
Everybody
much
had an
fun.
opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody weighed in. And we willed ourselves into the brains of whoever was making that student film.
yeah.
There was the well-connected kid whose father was an agent
Yeah.
who knew all these actors. That was a courtroom thing.
Yeah.
There was the super pretentious guy who put himself in the film
Yes,
as an actor.
that was great. Yep.
And we shot anamorphic.
Like anamorphic. Yep.
First time I ever shot anamorphic. So
The first time you ever shot anamorphic was in the student
in the
film
student
on
film,
the big
making
picture.
fun of a guy
That
who
is the best.
had too much money.
Oh, that's so great.
And it was overblown. Then we had the pretentious black and white Ingmar Bergman thing, which was
With like a chessboard
at,
thing,
at,
and yeah.
at the heart of what I loved as a film student. This was my world for sure.
yeah.
I was a big Ingmar Bergman film.
Okay.
My films were all black and white. So yeah, it was a blast.
And then the sort of crazy 16 millimeter. I can't think of what.
The music video.
No, before that, the other student film with she wore the big head dress.
Oh,
She always wore the crazy
Yes.
hats. Yes.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yes, Jennifer
Yep.
Jason Leigh. And
Yep.
she was amazing.
Yeah. Wait, but
What
so
was
you
her film? I don't remember.
you
Her
shot
film
hers in
was
16
really goofy, dancing around, stop motion
Oh, that's
pixelation.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her dog came out, and it was all
Oh,
like
yeah,
6
yeah.
frames a second.
It was
and
sort of
she-
what you expect from someone who wears a hat like that.
Or just this is. It's like I have no idea what I'm doing,
Yep.
but I'm doing something.
But it's
Shoot a bunch of
artistic.
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just Elliot Gould walking up to June Lockhart and the eye line change, which was like, because it was like really tight because it was an over. And then as he got all the way to us,
Yep.
we lost the over and he changed his eye
He
line.
changed his eye line.
He looks right into the camera.
He looks right at the camera. So,
And it
by the
wasn't
way,
even like subtle. He was on board.
anybody listening to this, if you go to the podcast section of the website, theop.io, I will put this clip in there because it's just so worth watching, even if you haven't seen the movie. And then the other thing that you reminded me of, which I watched it again, was Martin Short going, I've read almost all of half of these scripts.
I've read
Or I've read
all of these almost all the way
almost
through.
all the way through. That's what it is. He's so great.
And it's just totally, and you
I just-
and you look at Kevin Bacon and he's just like,
Yeah.
he didn't just say what I thought he just, yes, it doesn't matter.
You guys must just laugh the entire time.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's.
And it was early. I think that was just the second or third thing we did together.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It was non-union.
Later that year.
No video.
Was the script hilarious when you read it, or did it
Yeah.
come to life on?
Yeah. No, I
like
thi-
it was in the script.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and
it was. I mean, of course, all the getting Martin Short. That was before even anybody who knew
He wasn't
knew
Martin
him.
Short yet,
No.
right? So it was like, who is
No.
this guy?
I think he had done some Saturday Night
Yeah,
Live.
Second City TV. He had
It's like
done that.
SCTV.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
He was great with the camera too. He would ask what was in frame because he was improvising stuff. Like here's a scene where he's talking on the phone in a car while he's driving and lighting a cigarette. And he said, "Can you see my knees?" And we're like, "Yeah." He goes, "Because he was going to steer with his knees,
with his
and he wanted to be able to see that."
Oh yeah. So he wants to know what he can play with.
And
That's
almost get
great.
into a crash.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And that's right. And then the music video that he directs that you shot the music video as well.
Yeah.
Which what a blast. That whole thing
With
just
the,
seems
what was
so
the
great.
character's name?
Pez.
The Pez
The
band.
Pez. Yeah, the Pez. Yeah. That's fantastic. And then the one other thing that we didn't talk about was the Honolulu Murders. Or whatever it was. Was that just
Part-
some bad
part-
ABC movie of the week or
Part
something?
2.
Part 2.
It was Stanley Tucci was in it.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of his early roles, I
That's
think.
awesome.
And it was who's the actor? Tom
Selleck.
Tom Selleck was producing it,
Okay.
and it was obviously written for him. It was
Yeah.
a policeman trying to investigate.
Was this a movie of the week?
I think it was a movie of the
Yeah,
week. Yeah.
back when they had them.
And it was obviously written for him. And then Stanley Tucci shows up, and he's about half the size of Tom. So it just felt really weird. Didn't feel right. And the writing was geared towards Tom and not towards Stanley. Anyway, we were shooting in Hawaii, which was fun. But we ended up shooting quite a bit at night because it's a murder thriller thing.
Yeah.
So Don kept saying, "Why are we in Hawaii shooting at night? Because he can't see anything else.
We could
do
the
be
other
in Venice
Don.
Beach.
You could do this in Griffith Park."
It looked like Griffith Park. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it was like people, I'm sure, went, "Oh my God, they can make Griffith Park look really."
Well, more so, you're wondering, like, I know why I'm in Hawaii, but why are the producers allowing this to happen?
And we did shoot probably half interiors.
Yeah.
Here in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was only like it was 2 weeks here and 2 weeks there. So,
It's amazing
like
when
that.
that happens. I did a movie years ago that I don't even remember the movie where I just got called in for. They had finished the movie. It was about DC and it was shot in Atlanta, and they needed 3 days in DC to tie it in. And we got there, and everything we did was like on the end of the 275 zoom. And I was like, "Don't you want a wide shot with the Capitol in the background?" It's like, "No, it's about their faces." And I'm like, "I don't think it is, actually. I think it's about a wide shot with the Capitol in the background." And you watch
But
it.
you
and
didn't
it's just
say
like,
that.
No. No, I was like, "Hey, I'm in DC and I'm getting paid. I don't care." But
And there's blood. Why is there blood coming out of Dave's mouth?
Yeah,
He's biting his tongue.
Yeah, I remember mentioning it to the DP, and he was like, "Yeah, I've mentioned it. It's not going to happen." And I was like, "All right, whatever you want to do." But you literally didn't see a building that was in focus in the entire.
Seems like a waste.
Yeah, but it's someone else's waste, and that's what they want us to do. So, right on. Don, you have any final notes?
I'm not good with chaos. I like things planned.
Yeah.
And they can be planned.
You're in the wrong industry, man. I don't know if you
Craft
figured
service?
that out yet.
I just and like Jeff said earlier, and you said earlier too, is that we get to do take 2 if we need to, or 3 or 4, whatever it's going to take to get the performance right. We have that control. We're not doing a documentary, and even if we were doing a documentary, sorry, here's a scary alert. They do take 3 and 4. It's like, "Oh my God, you just went over there. Can you do that one more time, but go slower?"
No, that never happened.
Yes. So it's not being afraid of the actors. The actors are your friend, and Jeff knows me. He's known me long enough that I wouldn't have said that, early on in my career.
Mm-hmm.
But I just know that that's where that's the most important thing. Casting that person who's going to play that character, who's going to be, sticking their neck on the line every day.
Yeah.
And we should, as a crew member, as a DP, as an operator, just make them as comfortable as they possibly can be to get that. And it's not just, one day, "Oh my God, this Friday coming up, they got to do that crying thing." And it's like, no, that's just add that to the list, But what about when he comes in the door and he just has to give that look? That could be harder for him or her than doing the big physical thing. That might be the easy thing for that actor. So you sort of just have to kind of let them help you, And I feel they do. I feel that that I could never do that. I could never be in front of the camera or a microphone. I'm mad at other people, but
love it.
But I sure love hiding behind it and seeing it happen.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.